hopefully everybody's been able to keep up. We got another program we're writing this week. So let's take a look. Most people have everything caught up. There's just a few people that miss an assignment here or there. So, if you don't have that last program in, get that last program in turned in right away because time is ticking on that. And we're going to start piling up programs on you. So let's take a look at what this week's lesson is. All right, let's go to Foundations of Programming and let's go to our grade screen. Oh, see, I didn't get my assignment turned in. I'm one of the ones that's behind. I'll go back and look at that. This week is 1.05, the string input program. This is another program we're writing. And we have the Module 1 exam. I'll show you before class is over. We'll go look at the template because I do have it right here. Do This Week in Buzz with template. So we have another assignment template. But let's look at the lesson first, and then we'll come back and look at that. So 1.05, back on the activity screen, string input. All right, last time we were printing strings, so now we're going to take it a step farther. Look, there's only 4 pages. This is a very short lesson. All right, if you've ever experienced the joy of ordering food online, like through an app or a website, congrats. It's probably one of the many encounters you've had with providing user input. That's what we're talking about. So when you choose white or wheat bread or make a special note, hold the mayo, you expect the restaurant to do something with that information, right? Because you're telling them something specific you want about your order. So say you want to write a program that asks users to input information you can use. So lucky for you, Python has an input function. So we're going to learn to use the input function to ask for specific user input and define the input and output for a program using pseudocode. All right, this is something new we're starting with today. So pseudocode we will be using the rest of the year. All right, so far your programs have been pretty one-sided, right? You've written something for yourself and printed it. But assuming you're not the only one who wants to interact with the programs, there's another skill you need, interactivity, right? So when someone else runs your program, it's interactive. So, yep, you can write code that will interact with users and assign values to variables for safekeeping. So whatever they enter, you store in a variable so you can use it for something. So let's learn how to make your program interactive. That means programs that prompt the user for a response. So Python has this built-in function called input right there. Input, parentheses, parentheses, kind of like print has parentheses, parentheses. This allows programmers to create interactive statements to ask users for information. All right, so to get input, the program must prompt the user. That's a statement or question to communicate to the user what they need to enter. So that's why you provide a string literal prompt like enter your name or do you like Oreos or whatever to give the user some instructions. So let's look at the following input statement. So this is what your code would look like if you want to ask a user for their name. You'd say first name. That's just a variable. You can call that whatever, but make it make sense. If we're asking for their first name, it makes sense to call it first name. Equals, because that means we're going to store it. This is a variable that we're storing this. And then here's that function, input. And then we have to put parentheses. Now look, inside the parentheses, this is a string literal to prompt the user for the expected input. If it just pops up a box with no instructions, they don't know what you want them to enter there. 11? What are they supposed to enter? So this input statement pops up a box that says, hello, what is your name? So now whoever's using your program, they know what you're looking for. Wonderful. All right. So that would make a lot of sense. When you add an input statement, it'll make the computer print your prompt to the screen and wait for the answer. The program stops right there until they enter something. Once they respond, then it'll capture that answer, store it in this case, store it in this variable called first name, and assign it to the variable. And with enough of these input and output codes, you can design a conversation for the program to have with the user, like a chat bot similar. That's a program that simulates a conversation between a program and a computer. So let's put it all together and look at a program here. All right, here's our Python guided activity for today. Hashtag input sample. So again, hashtags just comments. Define main. All right. First name equal. Here's that what we saw above. Input. Except this time it just says enter your name instead of hello. What is your name? Enter your name. Print hello. Look, they put that in quotes. That's a string literal. And then a plus to concatenate. Whatever they entered will be stored in that variable. So we'll print that and then we'll put an exclamation mark at the end. And then we end our main function. So let's run this and take a look. Oh, look, a box popped up here. It says enter your name. All right, Mr. Brock. Hello, Mr. Brock. All right, so the input function works by prompting the user. Notice the program stopped when it popped up that window, and it didn't do anything until I hit enter. All right, so I can run that again. Enter your name. I got to put, I'll put Bob. You got to hit the OK. The program has stopped waiting on me. Now hit that. Hello, Bob. You know, so my name's not Bob, but Bob's a nice, quick example I like to use. All right, let's look at their next slide. Read the code. Try to predict the output. Enter Grace as the name, it says. It says, look at the output. Now run it again and type your own name. Okay. So I don't see where anything has changed. Grace. Hello, Grace. Darren. Hello, Darren. So lots of different users could enter that. Hello, Pete. Over and over again, it'll just, whatever their input is saved as this variable name, first name. All right. Now read the code and try to predict the output and then run it. Some variable. We just called this some variable. And we did an input statement, but we didn't put anything in the parentheses this time. And we're going to print your value is whatever they enter. So let's run this. Oh, it popped up a window, but what am I supposed to put there? But there's nothing up here that says enter your name. I'm going to say 11 chickens. Because it didn't tell me what it wants. I have no idea what the computer's doing. It just has a blank box that popped up. It just says an embedded page said this. Your value is 11 chickens. So I didn't even know what to enter. I could run that and say, yes. Your value is yes. See, that's not a good input statement. You need something to tell the user what you're needing them to input. Do you know what to type for input? I have no idea. All right, let's look at next. All right, fix the input statement by including the prompt, what is your favorite animal? Okay. Well, let's go change this. I'm just going to copy and paste it since it's right there. We have to have the quotes. Paste. There you go. Input, what is your favorite animal? See, now when it pops up, it has that question. What is your favorite animal? So now I know what it's looking for. Hippopotamus. Your favorite animal is hippopotamus. That's simple. But you can't just put an input statement without telling the user what you need them to input. All right. This is a string literal. That's why we put it in quotes, because we literally wanted to put this on the screen. Literally put that. What is your favorite animal? Now you run it. Chicken. Favorite animal is chicken. Save this. All right. Let's look at the next one. Oh, it says run the program and use monkey. Okay, I'd be happy to do that. I love monkeys. Your favorite animal is monkey. So there we go. Let's look at slide 5. Define main. Input, what is your favorite animal? Print, your favorite animal is the blank. All right, so let's run it. What's your favorite animal? I'm going to put the hippo again. Oh, name error. Name favorite animal is not defined. See the problem? Uh-oh. Wait a minute. The input popped up the statement. I knew what to enter. Was your favorite animal? So I entered the hippo, and then I went to print it. It didn't print. It gave me an error. Anyone see the problem? I'll give you a second to look at that. See if you can tell what is the issue. You want to compare it to the previous one? Let's go backwards. What is your favorite animal? It's right there. But notice this one, the input is saved to a variable. Whatever's input, we save it to some variable. Look at this one. We just have an input statement, but we didn't save it. We didn't tell it what to do with that input statement. So it stopped, it let the user input something, and it went on. So if we want to use this input, we have to put that variable fav animal equals. Okay, we spell it exactly like that because that's what we're printing. Fav animal. Now, whatever's input is saved. It's saved in this variable. So now it knows what to print. It didn't know what to print because fav animal, it didn't even know what it was supposed to be. So now let's run it. Let's do the hippo again. Your favorite animal is the hippo. Wonderful. So that's an error you could get. If you forget to save your input to a variable, it won't know what to do with it. You have to save your input. So your input statement should have a variable ahead of it. If you're missing that variable, fav animal equals, it'll stop an input. The statement was fine. It didn't create an error until we tried to print it because it didn't know what this was. We didn't have that. All right, let's look at the last. Oh, they said try dolphin. Okay, I'll use their suggestion of a dolphin. There you go. Favorite animal is a dolphin. Next. All right. Define main, print. If we run this program, there's an error because what is fav pizza top? I don't know. So write the code to ask for the user's favorite pizza topping. So this is a great thing for you to practice before you write your program. Go to this page 2 and see if you can fix these errors. So I'm going to go here, space over like the print statement, fav pizza top equals. So you notice camel case, that's actually 3 words, but by putting those capital letters in for the second and third words, our brain puts that space so we can read that. Fav pizza top. Input, quote, what is your favorite pizza topping? Topping. Run program. Oh, it stops the program, pops up this window. What's your favorite pizza topping? Let's see, Italian sausage. My favorite pizza topping is Italian sausage too. See, the computer's talking with me. We're having a conversation. It asked me, what's your favorite pizza topping? And I said, Italian sausage. It says, hey, me too. That's basically what it said, right? Got to use the input statement, tell the user what to enter, and save whatever they enter somewhere so we can do something with it. In this case, we're printing it. All right. So that is this is your trainer to teach you how to write your program, right? Go and practice in here because this is going to help you write your program. Let's look at page 3. Let's talk about pseudocode. Okay, so we're going to get into more complex coding, right? More complex. This is more than just the print statements. Last time we just printed 5 statements. Now we're actually going to input things and print things and input things. So it's time to talk about pseudocode. So pseudocode, let me scroll up here. An outline of your code that goes through the steps individually in an easy to understand human language. So let's look at this sample pseudocode right here. In fact, I'm going to blow this up on the screen because this is important. All right. I almost blew it up too big. We can't read it all. All right. Pseudocode. Now look at this. Input. The name of the sandwich, the type of bread, the meat, the toppings. Output, display a message with the sandwich details, including the name, bread, meat, and toppings. If I put that in Python, would that do anything? Would that run? No, that would give me all kinds of errors because none of that means anything. I put input, but that's not how an input statement works. You got to have the parentheses after it. This is just words. This is called pseudocode. That means fake code. Pseudo means fake, right? Pseudo means kind of. This is fake code. This is where we plan our program before we actually write our program. Right? I'm going to input all this, then I'm going to output all that. So you use it to plan out your program from start to finish. You outline your steps as clearly as possible. See, I would know exactly. Apparently, I need to write 4 input statements. If I was writing this program, input the name of the sandwich, input the type of bread you want, input what meats you want, input what other toppings you want. So that tells me when I write my program, I'm writing 4 input statements. And then I know what I'm printing. Display a message with the sandwich details, including the name, bread, meat, and toppings. You ordered this sandwich on this kind of bread with this meat and these toppings. And you'd print all that out using whatever they input. That's pretty straightforward, right? But this gives us a plan. And I could hand this to your grandmother, if your grandmother's still around. I could give this to your grandmother. She could read that and know what program you're writing. Right? If I hand your Python code to your grandmother, she may or may not have any idea what in the world you're looking at. That's what I'm looking for. Pseudocode is something I can hand to anyone, somebody who knows nothing at all about programming, and they can look at it and tell what you're going to write. Oh, you're going to write a program to do this. Use everyday words, not Python code. These are everyday words. Input the name of the sandwich, the type of bread, the meat, the toppings. Output this. Display a message. I didn't say print. I said display a message. Whatever. You can say print, though. Use short phrases to describe your steps, like input first name, input last name. All pseudocode look different, right? Now, we can write programs, and our programs may look almost exactly the same. But the pseudocode, you may write your plan differently than somebody else writes their plan. And make sure to review it and make changes. Maybe you forgot something. Oh, I need to ask them what condiments. So I wrote this program and I realized I didn't ask them if they wanted mustard, mayonnaise, ketchup, special sauce, $1,000 dressing. I didn't ask that. So I need to go back and change it. So I'll go back and change input condiments and then add condiments to my display. So review it and make changes that's necessary. All right, here's another thing here. To write a program to take someone's sandwich order. That's the program purpose, right? That'd be the hashtag at the top. They should provide details about the sandwich, the name and what's on it. After the order's taken, it should be repeated back to the user. So this would be like your assignment. Write a program to take someone's sandwich order. They should provide details. And then you do the pseudocode. Ask the user for, the user's, everyday language. Ask the user for name of sandwich, the type of bread, the meat, and the toppings, including commands or important components to make your program function. And output, print a message with the sandwich details, including all of that. All right, so we're going to practice some pseudocode. Pseudocode sample. All right, so the goal is to write a program that asks the user to answer a joke and print the response to the screen. The pseudocode for the program should look like, let's see. Let's say we're going to write pseudocode for this program. I'm going to bring just a window over here. Let's look at the program. Define main. Input, what do computers like to eat? Save whatever their answer is in there. So let's write some pseudocode for this. Oh, I don't even do that. I meant to do this. All right. Computer joke program. All right. Let's see. Ask user to input answer to this joke. What do computers like to eat? Oh. And then output, give user's answer Give correct answer. Is that some good pseudocode for that? Does that kind of summarize what this program would do? So if I was writing this or a computer joke program, ask user to input answer to this joke. What do computers would like to eat? So I'm putting what the joke is. And then for the output, I might even put that in bold. Just give the user's answer and then give the correct answer. This would not work in Python, right? There's nothing there that is Python code. This is pseudocode. Not that big. There we go. This is pseudocode. You're going to have to turn in pseudocode with each of your programs from this point forward. So our template will have a place to put your pseudocode and then a place to put your code. Some people put code for both and they lose points because the code is not pseudocode. This is something I could hand to a grandmother. A grandma walks in my room, I can hand to this and say, what's this person writing on their program? And they could read that and say, oh, they're doing this thing where they're doing a joke. If I hand them your code and I hand them this, they may or may not be able to figure out what the world. They say, well, I don't know what this def main is, answer equal. They, someone who knows nothing about programming might or might not understand it. And this is a very simple program, but they might not understand it. This they would understand. So that's the goal. Pseudocode, everyday language, not computer code. All right, not code. Let's put that. I'm going to emphasize that because I'm going to be taking a lot of points off the rest of the year where people that are turning in code for pseudocode. It's not the same thing. All right. The pseudocode for the program could look like this. Input, ask the user what computers like to eat. Display two messages. One will be the user's guess and the other's the correct answer. Okay, that's good. That's good pseudocode also. That's different than mine. Pseudocode could be different for everybody as long as it still tells you the same stuff. But let's copy that and compare that to what we had over here. See, that's fine. Different than what I did, but that's okay. Here, I'll separate those. Here's what I did. Here's what they did. Both of those are fine. Both of those are absolutely fine. All right, let's run the program. What do computers like to eat? Let's say mice, because you have a mouse. You answered the computers like to eat mice. If you answered chips, like in microchips, you're correct. Ha ha. All right. Slide 2. Okay, look here. We have all we have is a main function. We run it, nothing happens. This is line 5 is an error because it didn't have anything to do. Because it didn't call any function. There was no function to do in there. All right, so let's look at what our instructions are. Write a program that asks the user to answer a joke, repeat the user's response, and share the correct answer. Use the following pseudocode. All right, here's our plan. Python code for this program. Input, ask the user, what part of a computer does a spider use? Okay. User answers, what I'm going to call it. I can call it whatever. Input, parentheses, quote, what part of a computer does a spider use? Oh, forgot my quotes. Okay. Done that. If I run the program, it'll pop up and ask, don't know. And that's all it does because I didn't tell it to do anything with it. Output, display two messages. One will state the user's guess. Okay, so I need to write that. Print. You guessed plus, right, concatenate user answer. Let's run that. What part of a computer does a spider use? Mouse. Just put that. You guessed mouse. Okay, so that works. Just testing as we go. Now, if you don't put this, it's hard to test it. It'll give you an error because you didn't end your function. So make sure when you put this put this at the end at the same time, and then you can run it as you're doing your program. All right, and then print. One will share the correct answer, webcam. Okay. Print the correct answer is, oh, I can put all that right there, is webcam. Were you correct? Oh, I want a question mark. Question mark. Now when I wrote program, does it use the web? And it says the answer is webcam. I was close. So, yeah. You guessed web. The correct answer is webcam. All right. Refer to previous slides needed. Be sure to run your program. All right. So you should have 3 lines of code, 1 input and 2 print. 1 input, 2 print. There you go. All right. That is the end of the lesson because we've discovered everything we need to know about input. So let's look at the template that we used to write the program this week. When you go to Google Classroom this week, week 7, click on the template. All right, this assignment has 3 parts. Here's part 1. Write a program to simulate a chatbot conversation. Use the following guidelines. So you get to decide on what conversation someone's having with the computer. What are they in the computer talking about? They cracking jokes? Is the computer just getting to know them? Who, whatever. Are they talking about the last sports game that they watched? Anything. But your program should include at least 3 interactive prompts. That means at least 3 input statements. 3 interactive. Input should be assigned to variables and used throughout the conversation, right? The computer should repeat back to you what you entered on your input at some point, or talk about what you entered in your input. Oh, you said your favorite animal's a hippo. Well, mine's a monkey, something along that line. Ooh, now we're going back to what we learned before. At least once, you got to use the indexing or slicing technique. What would that be? Maybe a nickname. What's your name? And you might say, my name is Peter. And it's like, oh, your first initial's P, because I used indexing or slicing just to slice off the first letter. So I'm going to go back to the last lesson. If you need to go back and look at that one from last week, you have to use that at least once. And then use the concatenation to put your literals and string values together. That's just the plus sign on the print statement. All right. So, I mean, we used that in, we can go back to page 2 and look at that. Concatenation, that's when you use that plus sign inside the print statement. We concatenated hello along with whatever this variable is. And then we did it again with an exclamation mark. So that's just using concatenation right there. That's all that means. Write the pseudocode. Figure out your plan ahead of time. It goes right here. Insert your pseudocode here. There it is. Not your actual code, just your pseudocode. So you write your plan. Put your plan right here. And if your plan changes when you're writing your program, go back and change your pseudocode. So code your program using Python idle. The idle button, that's where remember, click on that idle button. There's our programming window. So that's what you're supposed to use to write it. Use this programming window. Use comments at the beginning. Every program should have your name, date, and a description of what the program is. Every program. Make sure you use meaningful names for all variables, not input 1, input 2, input 3. That's not meaningful names. And then make sure you indent things properly. And you can use white space. What does that mean? It means, look, they put extra spaces. Extra space in there. That's just adding white space. I can put all these spaces in there and it'll still run fine. Still pops up the window. Spaces are okay. Sometimes it's nice to add some space just to make your program more readable. It's easier to see your program. I could put a space in there if I want to just have extra space just to separate things. Spaces are fine. Python doesn't care. So use white space when necessary. Just make your program easier to see. Here's what somebody else did. Example of expected output. You don't have to write a program that talks about the same stuff. This is just showing what someone else wrote. You can choose anything you want for your program. You can have whatever conversation. This says, hi, I'm we. And so obviously at this point, they went, what is your name? Because now the computer says, hi, Ada. So the person must have had a window pop up and they entered their name, Ada. And then they use slicing. Look, this is the second letter of your name is D. They just pulled out a letter of their name to meet that requirement of use indexing or slicing. And then it says input animal must have been used here. It says, I challenge you to name an animal that starts with letter D. So that was an input statement. And then whatever they typed, they must have typed duck because the computer says, oh, I saw a duck in my backyard yesterday. So somebody must have typed something with a D. And then the computer must have said, what sound does that animal make? Because there's an input statement was used. It says, Ada, you sound silly quacking like that. It was nice chatting with you, Ada. Bye. So whatever they used as an input statement, they turn around and used it. They talk about hello, Ada, and a duck and all that. So save those things in a variable and use them. Here's where your code goes. Go and copy your code. No screenshots. Whatever you write is your code. Hashtag Mr. Brock. You're going to copy all that and paste it right there. Copy and paste. Copy and paste. All right. And then here are the 4 questions that we answer every time. All right. What was the purpose of your program? How could it be used in the real world? What's a problem you ran into? Maybe you had no errors. Maybe you did it perfectly the first time. That's great. But most of the time we ended up with some error. I forgot something. I forgot to put a quote around my input statement. Describe something you might do differently next time, because we're always reflecting, how can I be a better programmer? What could I add to make that cooler? So there's the template. We've added the pseudocode. If you need to review that, it's right there in the lesson. Page 3 talks about the pseudocode. If you need to review that, here's tips on how to write good pseudocode. So make sure you're paying attention to that. But that's it. That's the program you have this week. Worth 100 points. 100 points. Yeah, programs are valuable. That's when we really know if you understand what you're doing, is writing programs. Those little 5-question quizzes. Okay, so you learned something. But this really shows me what you learned, because you are being creative. You're deciding what to do with your program. You're meeting the requirements of what you have to have in it. But otherwise, have some freedom. You could ask and have the conversation be anything you want between the user of your program and the computer. But just remember, you may not be the only user. In fact, I'm going to run your program when you turn it in. So then I'm the user. So I'm answering questions. So you're not having the computer ask questions specifically about you, because you're not the only person to be using it. In the real world, you'd be putting it out for the public or for your company or whatever. So think about anyone using it. You need to ask good questions that they would know what input to give. That's the important thing about the input statements. So, all right, guys, any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Last time we did print statements. Now we're adding input statements to our print statements. And, so we're just growing slowly with our knowledge and adding more to our programs, so they get more and more complex as we go throughout the year. So that's why we're starting pseudocode now, because we're going to have a plan. When we get a big, long program, we need a good plan to follow, or we'll get lost in it or forget something totally, leave something out. So look at the template, and you can write on paper and then type it into the template if you want. But you're looking at all those directions and making sure you have that in your pseudocode so you don't forget it when you write your program. So, all right, guys, that's it. You got your assignment. Class is about over. I got cybersecurity coming in here in just a few minutes. So have a great week. This is a B-Day Friday. So we only have class on Wednesday. If your grade's below 70%, I'll see you then. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow night at parent-teacher conferences. I'll be here. Come see my lovely room and play with my worthless fox. Useless box, pardon me. We'll see you guys. Have a great week.